a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. National Rifle Association. The National Rifle Association of America is an American non-profit organization that advocates for gun rights. Founded in 1871, the group has informed its members about firearm-related bills since 1934, and it has directly lobbied for and against legislation since 1975. Founded to advance rifle marksmanship, the modern NRA continues to teach firearm safety and competency. The organization also publishes several magazines and sponsors competitive marksmanship events. According to the NRA, membership surpassed 5 million in May 2013. The organization is led by a board of 76 elected members who are nominated by committee or by petition from the membership. Observers and lawmakers see the NRA as one of the top 3 most influential lobbying groups in Washington, D.C. The NRA Institute for Legislative Action is its lobbying arm, which manages its Political Action Committee, the Political Victory Fund. Over its history, the organization has influenced legislation, participated in or initiated lawsuits, and endorsed or opposed various candidates. The NRA has been criticized by gun control and gun rights advocacy groups, political commentators, and politicians. The organization has been the focus of intense criticism in the aftermath of high-profile shootings, such as the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting and the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. Early history. The National Rifle Association was first chartered in the state of New York on November 16, 1871 by Army and Navy Journal editor William Conant Church and Captain George Wood Wingate. On November 25, 1871, the group voted to elect its first corporate officers. Union Army Civil War General Ambrose Burnside, who had worked as a Rhode Island gunsmith, was elected president. Colonel W.C. Church was elected vice president. Captain Wingate was elected secretary. Fred M. Peck was elected recording secretary. And Major General John B. Woodward was elected treasurer. When Burnside resigned on August 1, 1872, Church succeeded him as president. Union Army records for the Civil War indicate that its troops fired about 1,000 rifle shots for each Confederate hit, causing General Burnside to lament his recruits. Out of 10 soldiers who were perfecting drill and the manual of arms, only one knows the purpose of the sights on his gun or can hit the broadside of a barn. The generals attributed this to the use of volley tactics, devised for earlier, less accurate smoothbore muskets. Recognizing a need for better training, Wingate sent emissaries to Canada, the United Kingdom, and Germany to observe militia and army's marksmanship training programs. With plans provided by Wingate, the New York legislature funded the construction of a modern range at Creedmoor, Long Island, for long-range shooting competitions. The range officially opened on June 21, 1873. The Central Railroad of Long Island established a railway station nearby, with trains running from Hunters Point, with connecting boat service to 34th Street and the East River, allowing access from New York City. Wingate then wrote a marksmanship manual. After beating England and Scotland to win the Elcho Shield in 1873 at Wimbledon, then a village outside London, the Irish rifle team issued a challenge through the New York Herald to Riflemen of the United States to raise a team for a long-range match to determine an Anglo-American championship. The NRA organized a team through a subsidiary amateur rifle club. Remington Arms and Sharps Rifle Manufacturing Company produced breech-loading weapons for the team. Although muzzle-loading rifles had long been considered more accurate, 8 American riflemen won the match firing breech-loading rifles. Publicity of the event generated by the New York Herald helped to establish breech-loading firearms as suitable for military marksmanship training, and promoted the NRA to national prominence. Rifle clubs. The NRA organized rifle clubs in other states, and many state National Guard organizations sought NRA advice to improve members' marksmanship. Wingate's marksmanship manual evolved into the United States Army Marksmanship Instruction Program. Former President Ulysses S. Grant served as the NRA's 8th president and General Philip H. Sheridan as its 9th. The U.S. Congress created the National Board for the Promotion of Rifle Practice in 1901 to include representatives from the NRA, National Guard, and United States military services. A program of annual rifle and pistol competitions was authorized, and included a national match open to military and civilian shooters. In 1903, Congress authorized the Civilian Marksmanship Program, which was designed to train civilians who might later be called to serve in the U.S. military. In 1907, NRA headquarters moved to Washington, D.C. to facilitate the organization's advocacy efforts. Springfield Armory and Rock Island Arsenal began the manufacture of M1903 Springfield rifles for civilian members of the NRA in 1910. The Director of Civilian Marksmanship began manufacture of M1911 pistols for NRA members in August 1912. Until 1927, the United States Department of War provided free ammunition and targets to civilian rifle clubs, with a minimum membership of 10 United States citizens at least 16 years of age. 1934–present. The NRA formed its Legislative Affairs Division to update members with facts and analysis of upcoming bills. After the National Firearms Act of 1934 became the first federal gun control law passed in the U.S., Cal Frederick, NRA president in 1934, during congressional NFA hearings testified, "I have never believed in the general practice of carrying weapons. I seldom carry one. I do not believe in the general promiscuous toting of guns. I think it should be sharply restricted and only under licenses." The NRA supported the NFA along with the Gun Control Act of 1968, which together created a system to federally license gun dealers, and established restrictions on particular categories and classes of firearms. Until the middle 1970s, the NRA mainly focused on sportsmen, hunters, and target shooters, and downplayed gun control issues. However, passage of the GCA galvanized a growing number of NRA gun rights activists, including Harlan Carter. In 1975, it began to focus more on politics and established its lobbying arm, the Institute for Legislative Action, with Carter as director. The next year, its Political Action Committee, the Political Victory Fund, was created in time for the 1976 elections. The 1977 annual convention was a defining moment for the organization and came to be known as the Cincinnati Revolution. Leadership planned to relocate NRA headquarters to Colorado and to build a $30 million recreational facility in New Mexico. But activists within the organization whose central concern was Second Amendment rights defeated the incumbents, and elected Carter as executive director and Neil Knox as head of the NRA-ILA. Political expansion. After 1977, the organization expanded its membership by focusing heavily on political issues and forming coalitions with conservative politicians. Most of these are Republicans. With a goal to weaken the GCA, Knox-ILA successfully lobbied Congress to pass the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986 and worked to reduce the powers of the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. In 1982, Knox was ousted as director of the ILA, but began mobilizing outside the NRA framework and continued to promote opposition to gun control laws. At the 1991 National Convention, Knox's supporters were elected to the board and named staff lobbyist Wayne LaPierre as the executive vice president. The NRA focused its attention on the gun control policies of the Clinton administration. Knox again lost power in 1997, as he lost re-election to a coalition of moderate leaders who supported movie star Charlton Heston, despite Heston's past support of gun control legislation. In 1994, the NRA unsuccessfully opposed the federal assault weapons ban, but successfully lobbied for the ban's 2004 expiration. Heston was elected president in 1998 and became a highly visible spokesman for the organization. In an effort to improve the NRA's image, Heston presented himself as the voice of reason in contrast to Knox. Lobbying and political activity. When the National Rifle Association was officially incorporated on November 16, 1871, its primary goal was to promote and encourage rifle shooting on a scientific basis. The NRA's website says the organization is America's longest-standing civil rights organization. On February 7, 1872, The NRA created a committee to lobby for legislation in the interest of the organization. Its first lobbying effort was to petition the New York State Legislature for $25,000 to purchase land to set up a range. Within 3 months, the legislation had passed and had been signed into law by Governor John T. Hoffman. In 1934, the National Rifle Association created a Legislative Affairs Division to work officially on Second Amendment issues. The Institute for Legislative Action, the lobbying branch of the NRA, was established in 1975, according to political scientists John M. Bruce and Clyde Wilcox. The NRA shifted its focus in the late 1970s to incorporate political advocacy, and started seeing its members as political resources rather than just as recipients of goods and services. Despite the impact on the volatility of membership, the politicization of the NRA has been consistent, and its PAC, the Political Victory Fund, established in 1976, ranked as one of the biggest spenders in congressional elections. As of 1998, a 1999 Fortune magazine survey said that lawmakers and their staffers considered the NRA the most powerful lobbying organization 3 years in a row. Chris W. Cox is the NRA's chief lobbyist and principal political strategist, a position he has held since 2002. In 2012, 88% of Republicans and 11% of Democrats in Congress had received an NRA PAC contribution at some point in their career. Of the members of the Congress that convened in 2013, 51% received funding from the NRA PAC within their political careers, and 47% received NRA money in their most recent race. According to Lee Drutman, political scientist and senior fellow at the Sunlight Foundation, it is important to note that these contributions are probably a better measure of allegiance than of influence. Internationally, the NRA opposes the Arms Trade Treaty. It has opposed Canadian gun registry, supported Brazilian gun rights, and criticized Australian gun laws. In 2016, the NRA raised a record $366 million and spent $412 million for political activities. The NRA also maintains a PAC which is excluded from these figures. Elections. The NRA Political Victory Fund PAC was established in 1976 to challenge gun control candidates and to support gun rights candidates. An NRA A+ candidate is one who has not only an excellent voting record on all critical NRA issues, but who has also made a vigorous effort to promote and defend the Second Amendment, whereas an NRA F candidate is a true enemy of gun owners' rights. The NRA endorsed a presidential candidate for the first time in 1980, backing Ronald Reagan over Jimmy Carter. The NRA has also made endorsements even when it viewed both candidates positively. For example, in the 2006 Senate elections, the NRA endorsed Rick Santorum over Bob Casey Jr. even though they both had an A rating. The NRA spent $40 million on U.S. elections in 2008, including $10 million in opposition to the election of Senator Barack Obama in the 2008 presidential campaign. The NRA spent over $360,000 in the Colorado recall election of 2013, which resulted in the ouster of state senators John Morse and Angela Giron. The Huffington Post called the recall a stunning victory for the National Rifle Association and gun rights activists. Morse and Giron helped to pass expanded background checks and ammunition magazine capacity limits after the 2012 Aurora, Colorado, and Sandy Hook, Connecticut, shootings. On May 20, 2016, the NRA endorsed Donald Trump in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The timing of the endorsement, before Trump became the official Republican nominee, was unusual, as the NRA typically endorses Republican nominees towards the end of the general election. The NRA said its early endorsement was due to the strong gun control stance of Hillary Clinton in the 2016 United States presidential election. The NRA reported spending more than $30 million in support of Donald Trump, more than any other independent group in that election, and 3 times what it spent in the 2012 presidential election. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?